Yo guys, what's up? My name is Judge Prime. Welcome to another album review. Today we're talking about Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight. That's a mouthful. I'd say he really gained recognition from his Days Before Rodeo mixtape, a mixtape which I've talked about a number of times on this channel. It's one of my favorite mixtapes. So going into this album, first of all, I will say that there are certain artists who you listen to not because of their lyrical content, but purely because of the sound, because of the atmosphere you gain from these artists. Artists like Future, Designer, and of course Travis Scott. So just before you go into an album of Travis Scott's or any of his projects, just keep that in mind. So going into this album, the name, like I said, is quite long. Travis Scott explained that the Birds in the Trap was representative of any creative who felt like they were boxed in. Travis Scott often complains about his record label not allowing him to release music. And then Sing McKnight, apparently he wanted to make the album a play, but he didn't want the album itself to be too complicated, so he decided to make the name complicated. Let's get into the music. Now the album opens with The Ends featuring Andre 3000. Those of you who aren't familiar maybe with London slang, ends basically means the hood. So if you hear someone say in the ends, basically in the hood. This song had a very weird introduction, but the beat switches up and it kicks in and you immediately are immersed in this druggy, trappy rap, which is, what Travis Scott does. It's very eerie, and Travis Scott, like I said, if you're listening to Travis Scott, you're not gaining the deepest lyrics. He's just saying things about drugs, women, his come up basically. And then Andre 3000's verse is just insane. He's talking about murder, child murder to be more specific. He's talking about how it could have been him or you, and just reminiscing, going back in time, talking about what he's experienced and sort of that survivor's guilt. So a great opening track. Track 2, Way Back, which is featuring Swiss Beats and Kid Cudi. Now with this album, before I go on with this track, you notice a heavy Kid Cudi influence. I'd say the influence on Kid Cudi on this album is heavier than the influence on previous projects by Travis Scott. You notice that a lot of the sonics on this album is reminiscent of Man on the Moon by Kid Cudi, and Travis Scott has said a number of times, so many times actually, that Kid Cudi is his hero. Listening to Kid Cudi's music has helped him a lot. Travis Scott also talks about tapping into his old ways, and with this album you can definitely feel the Days Before Rodeo vibe, which I liked because I wasn't the hugest fan of Rodeo. I thought Days Before Rodeo was actually better than Rodeo. Track 3, Coordinate, featuring Black Youngster. You have production on here by Q Beats and TM or 808 Mafia. The auto-tune on here is quite heavy. In a way, he does sound like Future. Actually, not in a way. He does sound like Future. This does sound like a Future track, probably because of the auto-tune and because of the production. Like I said, it's a very trappy beat, and it also is a little bit trippy. Track 4, Through the Late Night, Travis Scott featuring Kid Cudi. If you're a fan of Kid Cudi, if you're a fan of Travis Scott, you're gonna love this song. Not much depth to this song in terms of the lyricism or the writing. Simply put, it's just about sleeping all day and partying all night. There's lovely harmonization from Kid Cudi. The flows are good. I would say that Kid Cudi, I enjoyed this. Kid Cudi was amazing on this track, and they showed a great amount of chemistry on this track. Goosebumps was an insane track. You had Kendrick Lamar featured on this track. In an interview Travis Scott did with Hot 97 recently, he said that this was around the time Kendrick Lamar was doing Untitled Unmastered, so definitely does feel like a little throwback to Pimp a Butterfly. The singing from Kendrick Lamar was decent, the rapping was insane, the song was good. There are a couple of songs which we've heard already. Pick Up the Phone featuring Young Thug, which I think is an enjoyable track. I enjoyed it. And Wonderful. Now the Wonderful on this album, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't sound like the one that was released, I think, at the end of last year. There's just something that's missing. Maybe you could comment down below. I don't exactly have the word for what was missing on it. I preferred the one that was released and not the one on this album, or maybe I'm just tripping, but I just feel like it wasn't exactly the same. So overall with this album, production, great. What I like about Travis Scott is that he's a producer himself, so he's able to arrange or give direction to the producers that he's working with and sort of give himself his own unique sound. So even though it is trap rap, there's something unique and, you know, characteristic of Travis Scott in it. I don't think he was as heavily involved in the production of this album as I would have liked. I would say this album is very reminiscent of Days Before Radio, so if you're a fan of Days Before Radio, you would love this. I'd say it's a nice blend between Days Before Radio and Radio itself. However, as an album, I don't think this should have been released as an album. It just doesn't feel like an album. Not saying I don't like anything, but some of the songs on here aren't album quality. Maybe a mixtape this should have been a mixtape, but I don't think this is exactly worthy of being Travis Scott's album. The features on here were good. Andre 3 Stacks was good. Kendrick Lamar was good. Young Thug, and who else? And The Weeknd. The chemistry between Travis Scott and The Weeknd was amazing. There were some features on here that I didn't care for, like I said, Nav and 21 Savage, who I'm not a fan of, and I've received a lot of hate for not being a fan of 21 Savage, but I just think that he's a very dull rapper who brings no substance to a song. So with this album, if you're a fan of Travis Scott, you're a fan of Radio or Days Before Radio, I think every Travis Scott fan should like this. If you're a fan of Kid Cudi, Man on the Moon, you should like this. If you're a fan of trap rap, definitely this should be on your list of albums to listen to. Is it worth spending the money? I don't know, that's up to you. I will say though, if you are someone who thinks that rappers should be lyrical and should tell a very well scripted and detailed story, the greatest detail and description you're going to get is from the features like Andre 3000 and Kendrick Lamar. However, it is enjoyable, it is very melodic, and it is quite immersive. It's an album that you just listen to enjoy the sonics and not necessarily the lyrics or the storytelling, and that's something I've come to understand or be used to with Travis Scott, and I quite enjoyed this album. My rating for this album would be a 7/10. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. My name is Judge Prime. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you're new around here, why not click subscribe, and I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.